All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 104th episode of The Get Down, presented by Digital Music Pool. My name is Cream.
Gary W. here.
Closing out the year, Gar. Last podcast before 2023. We're recording a little late this week, so you guys are going to get a podcast on a Friday instead of a Wednesday. It is what it is. We're just trying to squeeze one last show in here.
Gear up for your New Year's weekends. These 2 weeks are always I don't want to say difficult. They're a lot of fun. You get to spend a lot of time with your friends and your family, but then like the work stuff kind of sometimes gets thrown to the back burner a little bit. And maybe like a little laziness creeps in.
Super lazy.
Because of all of the festivities. And then, like, if you're hosting family, that's a huge thing. I was hosting friends and family for a week, over a week, and that's a lot of work. So yeah, the business side of things sometimes slows up, but that's okay. And it's expected because it's kind of across the board. Everybody really kind of feels the same way. I know that Monday I spoke to a few people and they're like, I just do not want to be doing work. I don't want to do anything with work. Like, especially day after Christmas. Like, that's rough on a Monday. But we're here.
Yeah. I think next year for us, this is going to be a 2-week break for no work. Like, we've been doing goals calls with our DJs this week, and it's amazing because it's great to have these conversations and really get an understanding of like where their heads are at and then how we can help all the DJs. But like, it's a lot to do during this week, to be quite honest.
It is a lot. But there are things that are non-negotiables, right? There are things that need to get done no matter what happens, whether it's invoicing, whether it's payroll, especially this time of year with like payroll and things like that. There are, and like even this podcast, like this has become a non-negotiable, it's, and not just for you and I mean, we have people hitting us up saying, why isn't the podcast come out on Wednesday? Or like, where's the podcast at? So you want to provide that for people that are weekly listeners. And so there's stuff that just does get thrown into the non-negotiable bin, and you have to get it done no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So you could say, yeah, we're going to take time off, but time off looks like, X amount of hours a day.
When I say time off, obviously I'm not saying like completely step away from the business, but not spend hours and hours and hours on Zoom doing the various things we do every week. So
yeah.
I hope you guys took some time last week, this week, and everybody's gearing up for the new year. But we're going to reflect a little bit about 2022, and we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect here in 2023, both from a business standpoint and I think music. And I think that's really what we're going to do this episode. So I don't know. You want to start with the pod? I mean, we've looking back on our 2022, I think if you think all the way back to January, we were really still gearing up and like growing as far as number of gigs and venues adding on more gigs. And like, we had to really like amp up our back end. And as far as the number of DJs we're working with in a short period of time, because the gigs were like really coming in early 2022.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting transition from 2021, obviously, that had that slower start and then really gained steam in the fall, which is usually where our business does gain steam. But that was like twofold due to the fact that there was like that scare again in 2021 and early. So like things kind of opened, pulled back. And then we saw like full-fledged football season 2021. And then that just honestly rolled right into 2022. And it has done nothing but gain traction for Get Down DJ Group since January.
Yeah.
And we're obviously very lucky and very grateful for that. And now it's almost like we have all of the systems in place to not be so overwhelmed like we were in Q1. I think Q4 really went off without a hitch. As soon, the first 2 weeks of September are always a little rough, no matter what happens, no matter how prepared you are, no matter how many conversations you have, there's always things that happen that are kind of like out of your control. But we've really gotten our footing here, and things have been great. This has been such a great year for our business, and I'm really, really proud of where we've ended up.
Me too. I think I agree with you on that. The beginning of the year was really figuring out how to handle the influx of gigs and DJs and really getting our business set on the back end so that we could continue to grow. And it took a little while, but I think spending all that time and energy and effort on, creating onboarding DJ videos and getting our systems and all the websites and various apps that we're using and our processes and like getting all that stuff done in Q1 allowed us to have a really smooth rest of the year, no matter how many gigs were coming in. So
Yeah, I think that's important for people to know. Listen, you're going to have growing pains when, whether you own a business or you're self-employed as your DJ there, and you start to gain more gigs, let's say, or you're picking up multiple venues, there are going to be growing pains and processes that you're going to have to figure out and how to balance and how to grow your own business or your brand in a better, more concise way.
I think one thing that I learned in 2022 for our business is it's not our DJs' jobs to learn how to work with us. It's our job to show them and coach them and teach them on how to work with us and how we want to work with DJs that we work with. I think that was a big realization for me this year. And it's helped us a lot,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes it's like, well, they should know to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, they shouldn't. They've never seen this application. They've never used this website. They've never done this type of booking or scheduling or whatever it might be, or plugging into a certain mixer or using a certain OS or whatever it might. Like, there's a multitude of things that go into our business that get thrown at these guys, and it can't be just expected. Like, the guys need to be taught
the interactions with DJs as they are working with the venues that we partner with, right? Like, what time, how early should you be, how to deal with certain situations. It's a lot. It's a lot, and newer DJs, they don't have as much experience. So it's really important to help them in that journey of learning how to be easy to work with the venues, and kind of those sticking points for the venues that are important, that it's important as a DJ working for Get Down, we make sure that we're delivering on, or hitting on.
It's easy for us sometimes to lose sight because of 20 plus years experience, 15 plus years experience, respectively, on like, guys just don't know. Like, they don't have the experience. Just because we have the experience doesn't mean they do. And it's just like, all right, you got to put your coaching hat on at those times. And it's always got to be on for us, obviously. Yeah. But sometimes you do get lost where it's like, well, he should know. It's like, well, no, he shouldn't. Like, one of us usually has to remind the other one, well, no, he shouldn't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big thing for us this year. And I think, I think we did a better job with the guys. If we didn't, let us know, the guys that are listening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have a real business, like we have to treat it as such. And we're not just this little booking company anymore. We're a real business. We've worked with like over 100 DJs this year. Think about that. When we started, there was like 10 DJs that we worked with. Yeah,
probably. Yeah. Somewhere between 5 and 10 when we first started this thing out. And now, we're booking 60 plus different DJs every quarter.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like a crazy amount.
100 DJs, like over 30 different venues, thousands of DJ bookings, literally.
Thousands. This was a wild year with the amount of bookings. We're getting creeping up, sitting around that 2,000 mark, I think, for the year almost, or surpassing it. I don't know. It's a lot. Whatever it is, it's a lot. But I think we've handled it pretty well, and I think the guys have handled it pretty well too. I actually think, and this is gonna sound crazy, I think things were smoother than 2021 was
100%.
But I guess the opening and the closing and the unsure nature of the business was tougher. So maybe this was kind of a sigh of relief after 2020 and 2021. Having a normal 2022 is really beneficial for us, and it made things a lot easier.
Yeah. And one thing I think with all of the business and getting our business stuff updated and running smoothly. We lost a little bit of building our community and like all the events and stuff that we were always doing. I think that's something that for 2023 is a focus where like we only had one meetup last year, right? We're gonna have two this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
More events for our DJs, just like, you know, pre-gig drinks or pre-gig pizza or dinner or like stuff like that. I think that's a great thing to try to get back to for 2023. But I don't know. As far as this podcast, we did 37 podcasts for 2022. I'd have to go look at how many we did in 2021, but that's well more than we did the previous year. And I think for 2023, we're going to try to do more than 37, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think 37 comes out to somewhere roughly about 3 a month, I believe. Actually just over 3 a month. Which is great. I think that's great, but I would like to get on here every week. And that's the main goal. I know some weeks are tougher than others with travel, especially when I'm traveling, which is, you know, at least once a month. And then your travel schedule has ramped up quite a bit here in the last 3 months, 3 to 4 months. So, and that's only going to increase more as well. I think it's being more equipped with being ready to record on the move, because it doesn't really take too much, you know, with the sound card and throw one of these microphones in the bag and a short XLR and you're good to go. Things that you should have in your bag anyway, probably.
Yeah.
But sometimes don't. But you know, it's one of those things that, yeah, we would like to do one every single week. Maybe have a couple more guests. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Have a couple more guests on this year. We had a lot of guests, like we said. We kind of reviewed this on the 100th episode, but we had a lot of guests during the pandemic for obvious reasons. But I think just getting ahead of the guest thing will be great. Guys, I would like to know, actually, get down into the comments. Who would you guys like to see on the Get Down over the next 52 weeks?
I have a really strong list of people that I want to have on the show. And a lot of them I've talked to about it. It's just a matter of scheduling it and making it happen. You know, it is sometimes hard with both of our schedules and then the guest schedule to figure out a time that actually works. But
your list is definitely strong, but I definitely want to hear from the listeners.
For sure.
I definitely want to know who they want to see and who they want to hear. And I say see because, you know, we do post this on YouTube. If you guys don't check it out there, go check us out. We're youtube.com/getdowndj group on YouTube. So that's another way you can consume it if you like to watch your podcast. So yeah, let us know who you guys want to see, because I'm interested to know.
All right. So enough about us. Let's talk a little bit about the industry and music. And we can reflect back on 2022. I think this year was really the year of house music, right? Tech house. I mean, that's kind of what the wave has been this whole year. No, would you agree or disagree?
Tech house has dominated what our DJs and what the market wants. I think Latin also dominated, obviously Bad Bunny. That goes without saying.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of funny. I think all of our guys would say that, you know, Tech House did dominate the scene and dominate what they played. And for me personally, I played more Latin than I played anything else. I think if I had to break mine down into like a pie chart of the percentages of the genres that I played, I would say like 30% of my music played is Latin inspired.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but it was my fallback all year. When I was trying to re-engage a crowd, that was my fallback. And it wasn't just Bad Bunny. It was even like throwback, maybe like the Daddy Yankee album was awesome. I'm actually looking at one of my playlists. Daddy Yankee had a great album come out. Like that dominated a bunch as well. So like that in combination with the Bad Bunny stuff and then some of the throwback stuff that it's still sing along in the club, like that's why that dominated my playlist. What you would say? You would say Tech House and Bass House probably dominated what you played. Obviously, you're playing more toward an artist set though.
Yeah, I got back to really being open format again this year for sure. But I think all the music that I was interested to play and listen to was definitely like the house music vibe, the tech house vibe, the bass house vibe. My rooms just didn't always allow me to do that. So
Right.
I think as DJs, that's what a lot of DJs were making and wanted to play. It doesn't mean that we were always able to do so.
Right.
I think in our market and where I've been playing, getting back to this open format thing, and the Latin popularity is a big part of that. I don't know. We'll get into hip hop for 2022. There weren't a ton of new hip hop artists or tracks that came out that like were must play every night, but there were enough that you could create a peak hour hip hop set that went off.
Yeah,
And then
I'm actually go
a
ahead.
lot a lot of the throwback like 2000s hip hop stuff hit again now. So my open format wasn't necessarily as much new hip hop, but when I went to hip hop, it was like the mid 2000s, like 2010 stuff that was really hitting. So
2000s pop became big again.
yeah.
And I felt like a lot of that stuff got remixed. The Keshas and the Black Eyed Peas, and obviously Iconopop's a mainstay.
Yeah, Sierra,
all that stuff.
All that stuff.
Like it came back big in a big way where like you could even play the original of a lot of those tracks, So I think that was a big vibe too. So you had a lot of like the 2000 late 2000s, early 2010s pop, whether it's remixed or the originals. Mix that with a little Latin, mix that with some popular bass and tech house, and you're 3/4 of the way through your set.
Well, like the Acre's Do It To It phase happened, right? And then
Right.
a lot of the house DJs started making those like 90s vocal, 2000s vocal hip hop tracks, which then allowed for us to go and play the originals because, and vice versa, right? Transition tracks and going up and down, like it just worked with each other. And that's part of the reason, I'm sure. But
sprinkling a little disco house in there too, and everybody's happy. That was kind of, I'm just looking at like what's in my peak folder, what's in my pick it up folder.
Yeah,
and like that's what dominates it.
Yeah, my big takeaways would be the tech house stuff, the bass house stuff, and then just not a whole lot of new hip hop that was like for the club. I think those were some of my takeaways, and then a huge Latin year. Those are the three main genres that we play, and to me, those are the big takeaways from those particular genres.
I'm going to speak on my 2022 hip hop, like when I wanted to go there, when I had to go there, like the ladies once again dominated, and your mainstays were there, Megan and Nicki and
Doja Cat.
And Cardi, but that birthed a whole bunch of new lady hip hop artists as well that we've seen on the come up in the last 6 months to a year, and I think and they're really making great club friendly music still. It's just ass shaking shit, it's great.
Yeah, Coi Leray has some hits.
From the guys, the Drake always hit. What I found that like the old Drake stuff has been like really sing along friendly. Even like stuff that's like 12 years old, like the younger generations into it, and they could have only been like 8, 9, and 10, when that album came out. So
yeah,
it's nice to see that some of that old stuff translates, but he's still dropping new stuff that's very good. Jack Harlow was great this year. I always like him. So
yeah, I think there was a lot of good hip hop that came out. It just didn't necessarily always translate over to stuff that we're going to play in the club, peak hour stuff. There wasn't a lot of peak hour party hip hop records. And I'm hoping that we get back to that a little bit more in 2023. I've been hoping that for a couple years here. And that's not to say that there weren't party records from this past year, but I'd like to see more for sure. More 90 and 100 BPM hip hop records that really hit in the club.
Yeah, because I think our market struggles with the 65 to 70 BPM hip hop, the slower stuff. I don't think it's as translatable as some of those other genres that we spoke of. Not only from ownership or management perspective, because that's always like a little bit of a struggle in our market for them to really latch onto that slower stuff, but also even to a crowd perspective, I feel like it doesn't hit as well as the other genres we spoke of.
For sure. So do you want to get into like some of our awards that we want to hand out? Because we kind of came up with a list of a few categories and some artists that we wanted to talk about. Or do you want to talk about what do you think is going to change from 2022 to 2023?
Let's get into, some of the people that we thought were great this past year.
All right. So I guess the first category was like, let's call it producer of the year. And when I say that, I don't mean like the big, huge artist, but some like up and comers. I have a couple for me that I've been playing a ton of their music. And it's Vandal on the track, Jin and Sonic, and then Hawk is another one. Those three guys for me in 2022 were like mainstay, always downloading their music and playing a ton of their stuff in my sets.
This is going to sound super biased, but yeah, I agree with Vandal on Track. Vandal on Track's amazing. He's been like recently like must hit stuff. He's
pumping music out.
He's not like has the number one must play Latin remix in one of my crates. The number one must play like up tempo, not EDM, I wouldn't call it, but like up tempo edit. And I think he's got the number one. Oh no, Angelo's got the number one in my like pick it up. But Vandal on Track and Angelo, I play I find myself, especially recently, because about a year ago I wasn't playing a lot of his stuff. Because I felt like it was like my crowds were like, it was just missing a little bit with my crowds. And then I think as the like that pop remix stuff, that like late 2000s, early 2010s stuff started to really pump out in over the last 6 months to a year. I find myself going back and listening to older Angelo stuff and grabbing that stuff and putting in this year's crate. So I think Angelo and Vandal have been amazing for me, for my sets.
Yeah, I mean, I play all of Angelo's stuff too. Angelo does a great job with really knowing he picks the right songs to remix, right?
Yeah.
And that's Vandal does an amazing job with that too. All the new songs that need that style of remix, that 124, 126 BPM tech house style remix, he's on it and he makes it and it's good.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's
but yeah,
what about
move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about best new artist. And we can kind of break this up if you want to do like house style first or EDM and then go to hip hop if you want to do it that way.
Best new, like, I wouldn't call him like new artist, but like, for me, it was John Summit. I thought John Summit was all over the place in 2022. Obviously, we all had his music prior to 2022, but for somebody who like became like a must play, and he's a must play for like every DJ. I think it was John Summit for me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna
especially when like he got announced in AC. Like I know our group of DJs were like, whoa, amazing booking, and everybody was shouting out Mark for that booking. So yeah, it was John Summit for sure, hands down.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Fred again, and I know a lot of his music doesn't necessarily translate to the US yet. I just think what he brings to the table is unique and different with his live aspect of, live drumming on MPC. Yeah. And I think what he brings to the table is different. And I think he's going to kind of spark what's going to happen in 2023. And the UK style stuff that he's doing, the garage, the drum and bass, or I don't even necessarily know if that's the genre that you would kind of place him in, but it's different, right? It's not something that we normally hear in the US. And then you add that on with his live performance aspect, and he's selling out everywhere, right? All the little he's doing pop-up shows everywhere. I think people can relate to him. He's doing shows in Ireland in a pub, in the Guinness, like pouring Guinnesses for people that are right in front of him. Like, I think him and John Summit have been able to connect to their audiences because despite how big and how much they've grown this year, they are like accessible, you know, they're
Right.
like everyman, like John Summit's an everyman. Like he's trying to get fucked up and party and have and rave and have a good time and listen to music, but he's also a really dope DJ and producer type thing. And I
Right.
think
That
people
helps.
can relate to that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously social media helps that, they can promote that everyman vibe. Um Gosh, I really love Fred again. He's like, that's what I predicted. If you go back to last year's predictions, my prediction was drum and bass and UK sound for 2022. And I think he kind of brought that, but I don't think he brought that to the mainstream enough. I think in America on a mainstream level. If you're a house head, obviously you know who he is and you consume his music. But so yeah, I'm gonna stick with my last year's and go with that. I mean, I think I might have also said Afro a little bit last year, but that also hit big. There was a bunch of really good, new Afro artists come out that were not named Black Coffee. So that was big for that. You know what? African music as a whole was huge this year. Afro pop was big, 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 and Afro house was huge. So, big shout to those pockets of Africa that have really been pushing great, great music.
Yeah, I mean, Burna Boy blew up this year for sure.
Burna Boy was big. He's that crossover UK Afro artist. If you go and listen to the top 40 records in the UK currently, it's mostly that Afro pop sounds with some Afro house involved in it too. And then,
Yeah.
Sam Smith's on there as well. But
On the hip hop side for best new artist, do you have someone in mind? I have another female artist because that's what's been good for the last few years.
I don't have somebody in mind currently.
I think Lotto did a great job. She put out a bunch of music. I think she had like the Big Energy track is a huge track that I play all the time in all my sets.
Big Energy came out in fall of last year on the radio. It was the first time I heard it. And then it didn't really like super hit until the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
And then wound up putting out a couple more tracks that I really enjoyed. So I'd agree with you on that. I know I'm not as involved in the hip hop scene as probably most. I know that the guys that are probably shaking their heads and naming two or three other people that were their kind of new artist of the year.
I think Lotto and Coi Leray are the two for me that kind of stand out as newer artists and music that I've been playing this year, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that those are two good ones. I think Kim Petras was big. This like put out like two pretty big records this year. The one with Sam Smith. I was familiar with Kim Petras being involved at 626 and in the LGBT community. But yeah, I agree with you on the ones that you said for sure.
All right, let's do song of the year.
Oh God. I'm gonna let you go first.
I think it's an EDM song, and I think it's the I'm Good track.
Yeah,
Keta and Diva Rexa.
Not even. I just looked at it as soon as you said it, and that's it. That's it. So actually, I didn't even tell you the story, and I should have taken. I'm just real quick. I was I went a town called Celebration. They have a whole block that they sync their Christmas lights, and they play a song, and it's all synced together for like a 15-minute show. And I'm Good was one of the tracks that they played.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send you the video. It's super dope. But that's how big that is. Like that was just it. That's one of the big. That was definitely the biggest one in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
I liked Drugs from Amsterdam as well.
There's a lot, and I think this kind of translates into another topic we wanted to talk about. But when I'm thinking about what was the best song of the year, I'm also thinking about, well, what song am I going to play when the ball drops?
I think it's I'm Good. I couldn't even think of a second. I couldn't even think of a runner up.
It depends what crowd you're playing in front of, right? If you're playing in front of like an EDM top 40 crowd, like to me, there's not even a question that I'm good as the song that I'm going to play. And that's what I'm going to play on Saturday when I go up to Connecticut to Mohegan Sun. Like that's going to be my ball drop song.
Yeah, I'm speaking from an open format DJ perspective. What would you play? Like if you're in a hip hop room, what would you play? That's
Probably,
a toughie.
I would probably play Jimmy Cooks,
Jimmy
Drake.
Cooks. Yeah, that's a good one.
That would probably be my hip hop room ball drop song. Honestly, I would also say maybe the Central C Doja track. I love that track. It hit hard for me this year too.
That's a great track too.
Right? Great track.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at I'm looking at other things, but I think yeah, that's you hit him on the head for sure. I'm not seeing anything else.
And
that's
then,
jumping out at
you
me.
know, Bad Bunny, if you want to do the Latin thing, I think TT is probably the one, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Vandals.
that song still goes off crazy.
Vandals remix?
Yeah, original, or you could do that. But it's funny, like going through, and I was downloading music this morning and I was going through all my record pools that I hit regularly. And there's so many New Year's Eve countdown tracks, like so many that I don't even want to deal with going through all of it. Because in my brain, I already knew Saturday what song I'm playing. So I downloaded a couple of versions of that. I might make my own potentially.
That's what I figured you'd do.
That's usually what I do. I don't know. Like these countdown songs and New Year's Eve are it's like the Halloween songs and the Christmas songs. Like it just turns me off. I just don't like them. I hate them, to be honest.
They all have like a terrible tone play.
They're just corny. Just not for me.
Yeah, you might as well make your own. You're well capable.
All right, and let's do Artist of the Year.
Artist
I mean,
of
it's
the
got to
year.
be Bad Bunny. Not a close second, I think.
Yeah.
That's it. So much music. Literally, like, the industry's been shaken up by the Bad Bunny requests. It's like...
The tour was incredible. You saw multiple stops, which you could probably speak to in a second. He just did that gas station concert in Puerto Rico, which
that looked crazy.
Dope. Which was so reminiscent of U2 back in the 80s, which is kind of a legendary thing as well. I think that was in Ireland. I believe that was like kind of the same vibe where they just set up on a roof and played a concert. He was just such an influence on music, period, across the board. Pop music, Latin music, house music, just straight up influence.
Pure domination. Domination.
We haven't seen, I don't think we've seen an artist dominate pop music, which means that kind of touches every other genre of music probably since, dare I say, Michael Jackson.
I mean, didn't we have the conversation about his impact compared to Michael Jackson's? I don't know if that was on the podcast or not.
I think it might have been. I was thinking of that when I said it, but like, it's not saying that he's bigger than Michael Jackson because that was just a different time period, you know, where there was less music coming out.
Just the impact that he's made.
Just the impact's crazy. Like people had to walk into the studio thinking about like, if I want to put out a pop record, like, do I want to add Latin influence? Because that's really what's selling right now. So yeah, that's hands down, not even close. Talk about his, I don't think you talked about his concerts all that much, I think, on the pod. And like, talk about the difference between obviously the Puerto Rico show and the New York City show, and you know, what kind of performer is he? I don't know because I've never even really seen him.
Yeah. I mean, my girlfriend like loves Bad Bunny. So we've been to a bunch of shows. The first show I saw him was in Puerto Rico, and nothing will touch that show because it was just insane. It was he basically set up like a festival, and all the partners and companies that he works with, all the brands, they were a part of the show. There was like, it was just insane. They had like a whole outdoor area before you went into the stadium with food and entertainment and experiences and merch and stuff like that. And then inside the show was also insane. He brought out every artist you could think of. And every show I've been to, he performs for like 3 hours, man. He does so many songs. It's impressive. He sounds really good live. He has so many hits. For someone who doesn't speak Spanish, or, you know, I understand some, but it's not a strong suit of mine, to still go and really enjoy seeing the shows multiple times. That also speaks to how great of an artist he is. But yeah, I saw him in Puerto Rico. I saw him in Newark, which was probably my least favorite show, just because it was just like a standard arena show.
Did he still do a long set in the arena?
I think that was the shortest of all 3 shows that I saw.
It makes sense. Yeah.
And then the Yankee show was awesome. You know, it was a really cool a vibe. Doing it in Yankee Stadium with Diplo as an opening act was super cool.
Was he in center field? Is that where they do it?
Yeah, center field.
Okay.
Like left center field.
Right. Makes sense.
So yeah, man, like at this point, I'm also a fan of Bad Bunny, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's hands down artist of the year for sure.
Interesting from a pop music artist to do like a 3-hour show. That's almost unheard of, because you're rifling through what, 3.5 minute tracks?
He has so many songs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. Like
it's
three
crazy.
3.5 minute tracks. I'm sure he's doing like a little shtick in between and a little, you know, talking and engaging the crowd, et cetera, et cetera. But like, we're used to hearing like, you know, Springsteen does a 3 to 4 hour show. The Dead do a 3 to 4 hour show, but they can like jam on tracks. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like breaking down for a 5-minute guitar solo at a Bad Bunny show. Like it's got to be exhausting, and there's a reason why, you know, he is who he is, because to do such things, that's out of the box for sure.
So just to give you guys some like numbers on this, in 2022, Bad Bunny made $435 million in his tours alone. Just his tours. The newest tour, the world's hottest tour, which is mostly is outdoor in stadiums, was 314 million. Has nothing to do with endorsements, merch. His sneakers from Adidas go crazy. I've been trying to buy them. I try to get the drop every time for my girl, and I fail. I had to buy them off of, you know, GOAT or whatever.
Right.
So that doesn't include any of that stuff. Spotify streams, like none of that. That's just tour money alone. He's got to be close to like $1 billion person here. That's where these artists are making their money right now, right? On tour. Like, he was obviously the #1 touring artist in the world. Stadium shows pay. I mean, you could put a lot of people in a Yankee Stadium paying premium dollar for a ticket. And then what do they charge? What does he charge for like a t-shirt at the merch stand there? Like $80? Nah, like $40 or $50 probably.
Okay. So standard concert. Yeah,
prices. Like hoodies were like $120 or $150 probably.
You still haven't gotten me a tour t-shirt when you go to the shows. I asked you when you went to Puerto Rico.
Dude, trying to buy merch at the shows is like anxiety. It's the worst experience ever.
Yeah, I'm sure it's terrible.
It's terrible.
That's how I feel when I'm going to get my Dead posters. Did they sell out yet, or did they not sell out? And then everybody's kind of going to do the same thing at the beginning of the show. It's mayhem.
Yeah. So Bad Bunny's 434 million this year is the all-time highest grossing year for a tour, surpassing Ed Sheeran in 2018 of 400, and he also had 434, but Bad Bunny was 434.9 and Ed Sheeran was 434.4.
Wild.
Pretty sick.
So yeah, Bad Bunny ruled the year. Be interesting to see who kind of, if anybody can, not to say take that over, because that's not going to happen, but like, is he going to cool down a little bit as far as how much music he's going to come out with? I don't think so, but
I think he's riding the wave, man.
You have to, because you just don't know when or if. I don't think the wheels are going to fall off, but like, you don't know when you're going to cool off a little.
Yeah, I mean, he's 28 years old. He just came out with 2 more songs. Like he just did the song with Arcangel, which is who he performed with at the gas station in Puerto Rico. Like he's gonna keep pumping music, you know?
As he should, because just make that money when you can.
Yeah, man. All right, so let's close out here talking about predictions for 2023. Like, where do you think pop music and music in general, and if you want to throw some artists that you think are going to blow up, like what do you think is going to happen in 2023?
Man, 2023, I don't, like I said before, I don't think it looks any much different from my predictions from 2022. I think that my predictions from 2022 started to kind of gain steam over the summer into the fall, and I think that's going to continue to happen. So I think, like you said, I think Fred again, and that sounds, maybe that becomes the new quote unquote tech house sound, like the, tech house sounds, hopefully. Yeah. Maybe that UK sound does cross over the ponds a little more than has in years past. I don't know. I don't really, hip hop, I think hip hop gets clubbier and continues to get clubbier. As far as what we can play in the nightclub.
I hope so.
It has picked up a bit in the last 3 months. I find that I'm downloading more and more hip hop. So I'm hoping that, maybe one artist kind of takes the torch and runs with it, and puts out like a really good club friendly album. I think that would be dope.
Yeah.
Jersey Club. I think you'll agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Jersey Club's been getting more popular. You see more artists making it. You see more edits on the record pools from artists making Jersey Club, which is great to see. I would love to keep seeing that grow. I think where we see the Fred again and that sound cross over, it might not necessarily be in garage or UK style sounding tracks here in the US that go big, but I think the BPMs are going to rise. So I think we're going to see more 130, 132 BPM tracks come out here. Maybe like the techno thing, which has grown in popularity here in the US and I know is huge in Europe. Maybe that kind of boosts up a little bit and we go away from this like tech house 124, 126 style. It's been getting overplayed, right? It's just overproduced. And that wave, right, I feel like is going to slow down. And the next thing is going to pick up. I think the faster BPM stuff is going to come back. Maybe it's that like 130, like Dutch style stuff gets popular again. Or yeah. I just think like the BPMs are going to pick up and music's going to be made at a faster speed.
Yeah, for sure. All it takes is one pop artist, pop producer to put out a song at that BPM and it takes off. I mean, you could see even what was being replayed, on the radio or on your XM or whatever. Some of the, like, every time we touch like original, I heard in, like I said, on a random podcast, I was hearing it in random places this year. I heard it in the airport, heard it in a restaurant somewhere. And it was like, in years past, if that song came on, I'd be like, what the hell is this play? Like, what are they playing? But that's the stuff that's being worked in. And you can definitely see pop music going that way.
Yeah. One last thing that I do want to talk about, which we haven't talked about this whole episode, is just like the 2022 rise of like the TikTok artists blowing up, And I think that's going to continue in 2023, especially in the first half here, where music's going to blow up on TikTok. And because of that, us, the DJs, are going to have to play it, And remixes that blow up on TikTok are going to blow up in the clubs. And that's going to continue. And I just think more and more artists who get found on TikTok are going to grow in 2023. There's Disco Lines and, Matillo, and there's a ton of artists that I can think of just seeing on my feed all the time. Even Fred again, all his stuff is super viral and like that right. plays into the mystique of him and his shows and stuff.
We see it. We've seen record pools make now sections for viral music that you could just go in and grab. They'll have lists of what's viral currently. Yeah. And that's obviously now it's a big part of our job. And really grateful for Record Pulls for
Yeah.
doing that, because especially if you're not as active.
It's going to get harder for artists, for young artists or more unknown up and coming artists to get found on a platform like TikTok, because so many people are now trying to blow up there, you know?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
This is something where, like, looking back, Brendan Barris, who used to work with us, like, was pushing TikTok 3 years ago, 4 years ago, even
4 years ago. Yeah.
And it's like, here it is, you know, it's taken 3 years, but it's like making artists now and making tracks now.
Yeah, it's dominated the music scene as far as influence on what we need to play.
Yeah.
And what people are listening to. So
all right, guys, we're gonna wrap here. I mean, thank you for a great year of listening, and Gary and I really enjoy doing this, and you guys who listen and comment and give us ideas, and you pushed us to keep growing the pod and keep making the episodes. So thank you guys for that. I hope everybody can reflect on their 2022 and enter 2023 with, you know, a fresh outlook and motivated for success and growing your businesses and booking more gigs and making more music. And that's it, man. That's all. That's my final words for this year.
Yeah. I mean, I like to thank everybody for just like letting us vent and letting us talk about like the issues and talk through some of the issues that we have. That's a big part of the show, I feel. It's not just us venting, but it's us also working through issues and hopefully giving you guys knowledge into how to deal with the same issues when you come across them, because it is inevitable that we do all deal with the same stuff at some point or another in our DJ careers. And if by listening to the pod, you are a little more well prepared, then, you know, you're better off for it. And we hope that we're providing you a little insight. So thank you guys once again. It's been a great year.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Get Down. My name is Cream.
Gary W.
Peace out.
Peace, guys.